Okay, Christina.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. This is Christina Jang from ITDP, and welcome to our webinar today. Before we begin, there are just a few things to note. This webinar will be recorded, and both the recording and PowerPoint will be available online on our website to you within a week. To interact with our hosts today, please submit questions through the Q&A function, which is at the bottom or the top of your Zoom screen, and please refrain from using the chat box. I also encourage you to enter questions to us throughout today's presentation. Again, thank you all for joining our webinar today titled Jakarta's Urban Villages, a community-based approach to urban mobility. In Indonesia, a Kampung Kota, an urban village, is a compact mixed-use neighborhood within the larger city. These neighborhoods, made up of everyday working people, are often overrun by motorcyclists as a shortcut to reach their destinations, disrupting sidewalks and the local environment. However, if designed properly, motorcyclist paths could become the backbone of a new urban mobilization system. So today, Agi will walk us through the launch of Kampung Kota Bersama, a community-based planning and design approach to transform Jakarta's urban villages to pedestrian and cyclist-friendly environments. To learn a little bit more about our presenter today, her name is Deliani Siregar, but she goes by Angi, and she is an urban planning associate at ITDP Indonesia. Angi is an urban enthusiast who has a strong passion for mobility and transportation affairs. She is responsible for the project coordination and field supervision of Jakarta's non-motorized transportation vision and design implementation until 2022. In the past, Angi has contributed to many different projects and built her expertise by providing transit-oriented development, NMT and BRT plans, assessments for local sustainable mobility planners, reducing transport emissions in Indonesian cities, and also contributing to BRT cost estimations for planning for the Asian Development Bank. She has also provided alternative designs to support great walking and cycling environments throughout Jakarta. So Angi, now I can pass the presentation off to you. Feel free to share your screen whenever you'd like.
Okay, thank you, Christina. So I would like to share my screen for now, and I would like to. Okay, so here you are. So, hi everyone. Hopefully that you can hear my voice clearly. So just in case you cannot hear my voice clearly, you can say something on comments, and then maybe Christina, you can also give me some comments directly to me so I can understand that you do not hear my voice clearly. So I would like to start my presentation. So actually this webinar, we want from ITDP Indonesia would like to inform you and do some share moments with you about something that we've done so far with the urban villages community in Jakarta. So actually, Christina already mentioned about the name of the program that we've done or what we are running now. So the name of the program is Kampung Kota Bersama. And with this kind of program, as the picture of the opening in this presentation, you can see we would like to do something in a collaborative methods based on the community approach. And we will do something that will reflect to the urban mobility, but we started from the urban villages mobility. So as the outlines today, we would like to give you some insights about what is Kampung Kota. So Kampung Kota maybe can be defined as urban villages, which is you can find some village like in the rural area, but you can find it in a city center. And then you can also understand with our program about Kampung Kota Bersama and also the methods and application progress. And also in the end of this presentation, I would like give you some offers related with the collaboration things. And here you are. Talking about the Kampung Kota, what is Kampung? Why we have to mention addition word with Kota? So Kampung means neighborhood, some kind of residential area, but mostly Kampung is associated with the rural area, so outside of the city center. But Kota means city. So when you say Kampung Kota, it means something that you can find residential area in the city center. So sometimes you can see these kind of residential areas were built by the people, the local people, and most of them are immigrant from outside of the city center, but they come to the city center for the job opportunities or economic opportunities, and they build these housings and residential area very compact and dense, and you can find almost anything inside of the residential area, and they will be located near with the activity center, and also most of them are mixed use. So when you go to the Kampung Kota, you can find 50 up to 80% of the houses there economically active. And you can also find this kind of type mobility in the kampung. So in Kampung Kota, you will find the basic mobility that you can really reliable with is walking and cycling. So walking and cycling is a main option to mobile within the neighborhood. But unfortunately, when you can see this kind of environment, a lot of children goes everywhere, almost anywhere with bikes, and almost women, even the elderly, goes everywhere with the foot or walking. But this kind of pictures that you will talk with people. So when you talk with people, other people outside of this community, they will speak something about Kampung Kota, which is related to the kampung. Kampung will be associated with motorcycling, motorcycles, and also about the mess up area, mass transportation, low income housings, and others. But this kind of area, it's not always fulfilled with the low income people. So sometimes there are middle or even like middle up income people who lives in the kampung because they cannot pay the housings and the facilities in the city center, so they need to move in the kampung area that will provide maybe around 70 up to 80% housing in the city. So when we are talking about Kampung Kota Bersama, this program really has a point to transform this kind of neighborhood, being very nice to the pedestrian, being very nice to the cyclists. So as their basic mobility, as the residents, as the locals can be can be implemented or can be reflected into the nice environment, so they can really mobile well around the neighborhood. And this is these are the goals of the Kampung Kota Bersama. So we have 5 goals to work with the locals to create Kampung Kota Bersama. So if you understand kampung means neighborhood or village neighborhood, residential neighborhood, kota is city, bersama means togetherness. But here we will give you some insight that we want to use word bersama as a collaborative things. So we want to create pedestrian and bike friendly neighborhood as our first aim to be implemented in the neighborhood with this program. And also the second one, we would like to increase the sense of belonging for every improvements made. So here people in not only in Jakarta, but in most cities in Indonesia, we have a lot of planning forums, but sometimes we just like create the forums and also invite people to come to the forums and let them talk and discuss something. We give questions, but it will just decrease the sense of belonging because of people will always say or state that it was the forum created by the government or the specific NGOs or specific organizations, and we do not have anything to do with it. But when we go with Kampung Kota Bersama, we just go to the locals forum. So if there is some meetings with the women group in the local or the neighborhood, we will come, and we will also pay attention about every single things that being their motivations or what kind of issues there. We just like being a listeners and take the notes and ask them some questions to create the details. And the third goal, we would like to do something related with the capacity building because we want to transfer knowledge to the people so they have capacity to build, not only build, but also understand about the importance of creating walkable neighborhood of pedestrian and bike-friendly neighborhood, and they will understand how to plan, and they can get some inspirations about what kind of good designs outside of the neighborhood that might be good example for them to be built, or even like to be just inspired them to create something nice or better environment in their neighborhood. And we also want to give them some capacity, and we want to empower them about something related with the technical things, how to build their plan, about how to create their environment being nice for them and being livable for them. And here we also want to establish the collaborative environment, because for now on, people in Indonesia, even in Jakarta, in locals in the neighborhood, they will think that they only can ask something related with the infrastructure to the government directly. But even they just want to go to the other partners such as the NGO, they do not think the NGO has something that maybe can help them to build their better neighborhood. So we would like to create this kind of environment so they can like collaborate not only with the government, but they can also collaborate with the NGOs, with the organizations, with the other communities, and even talking about the other locals. We also want to emphasize the direct role of women and children within the process, because as the like a manual things happen in Indonesia, or even many cities in Indonesia, every single planning process, when we talk about the participation from the locals, it will goes to the men group only. So when we create the forum, so actually we have specific forum in Indonesia named Musrenbang. So Musrenbang means musyawarah perencanaan pembangunan, which is it can be translated as forums for planning and development. But then when we create this kind of forum, the men will only be persons who will be the representative of the neighborhoods or even the locals that will always give some suggestions or even talking about the issues within the environment. And they will always mention about, when we are talking about the transportation, they will also only mention about the traffic problems or even specific talking about the congestion. So when we are talking about the women here, as we learned from our first pilot project, when we are talking with the women, they will give some new ideas about creating this kind of neighborhood to be friendly for the pedestrians, not only even pedestrians, but more specifically to be friendly for the disabilities people or even for the children. And we also realized that the existence of the open or even public spaces are really important in the neighborhood. So that's why we also invite the direct role or even the direct methods that will grab the voices from the children. So talking about the pilot project, in 2018, we already set the pilot project, one location in the North Jakarta. So the name in Jakarta, we call it RW 01 Sunterjaya. It may be not familiar. So if you already seen the blog post made by Iwona, so Iwona already gives some explanation about what is RW, RW. So RW called RW, and what is RT, which is we call it RT. So RW here, as I mentioned, RW is like a district, and 01 is 01 is the number of the district. And it is located in the North Jakarta. As you can see in the picture, the orange area is the location that we being our pilot project. But they also have some problems that we already committed with. As we do some interventions or improvements here, as the basic information, this area is 15.6 hectares, and also they have 24 sub-districts. They also have 3,000 households, more or less. and it could be 13,000 inhabitants live inside of the neighborhood. But they have four main issues related with the accessibility. So they always say that they lack of reliable public transit as be pointed in the number one, and the number second one is talking about the lack of safe intersections, because they have in total around 167 intersections, but unfortunately only 100 or less than 100 intersections are safe, are claimed by people safe. And then lack of the public spaces, they only have one open space, and not many children can access the public space. And they also complaining, especially for women, they always say that parking is everywhere. So they cannot have safe space to walk or bike. So by divining the issues and have some discussions with the locals, we set 3 prior activities to create so after we do some planning process and discussions with the people, and also agreeing about what kind of concept that can be implemented to the neighborhood. So we have 3 activities in the last before we do celebration. So it's talking about the planning, implementation, and also festival Kampung Festival. So we do the planning process started in March 2018. The planning process was put the importance of the women and children role within the process. So we invite all of women, all of children within the neighborhood by visiting their forums, existing forums, and we do some discussions there, and we also being a good listeners when they have a chit chat, informal chit chat. So we take a notes, and we do a lot of field surveys and do mappings, and then we also confirm the issues that we already collected by visiting the forums to the people. So in this confirmation process, we invite all of the people, all of groups by the locals in one places in one time, and then we floor every single things that we've got from the process, and then we ask them about the solution that can be offered by the people as the locals. So we just like arrange the plan, and we do the planning process together with the neighborhood people. And after that, before we doing the implementation, we also asking about the list of resources. So when we understand and agree and commit with one kind of concept of planning, and then we try to make the list of the resources, how to create or even make it happen. And when we make it happen, we try to invite all of the locals together in one place in one time, and we discuss about what kind of resources that we have for now. Is it the human? Is it talking about the existing of paintings, or do you have any painters and other things? And we should like really collect it, and then we just schedule the implementation time when we can gather and do the physical improvement together. So in the implementation process, we also invited the initiation from the people. So let's say when they understand about their needs to put some shelter, even put more shade, we can like really transform from the canopy into more creative things, such as using the old umbrellas to put over the alley, so they can like put more new and also create ambience as the shade. And we also invite other initiated from our volunteers to give inspirations to the locals, because this kind of things really important for us, for not being only rely to the government. So we just asking the people to do something, and we can like really do this kind of improvement by ourselves, and also collaborate with the locals, other locals, or even invite the volunteers to join this kind of process. And after that, after we do some implementation, improvements that can be made by the locals, we do the Kampung Festival. So this kind of festival is like an event to celebrate and appreciate the improvements made by the locals. And then it is the time to find the collaborators. So we invite the medias, we invite the communities, we invite the other NGOs, we also invite the provincial governors, we also invite the city mayors and other staffs and agencies, of course, to understanding about the needs, because of this airway is already or this district, sorry, this district already have one book, and this kind of book already gives stories from the planning process. Even before we are doing the process, it is like talking about the area, the history of the area, the characteristic of the area, and then talking about the process, the issues, the planning process, and then suggestion or ideas or recommendations, and also give some details and specific allays, and also the budget thing. And then when we are in the Kampung Festival, we give the potential collaborators this book so they can really understanding about the needs of the people here, and they can really collaborate more with the people, not only by the government who can be joined this kind of program or chip into the program by doing a physical improvement in infrastructure, such as doing improvement in drainage, or even maybe in the road, redesigning of the road system or transportation modes. But we also invite this kind of another social NGOs or communities that can be a trainers to support the concept of the dream neighborhood. And then this kind of things that we do in RW or District 01 in Sunterjaya in the North Jakarta, we have several alleys that can be transformed into child-friendly alley. So here you can see the picture of before we doing something in the alley, and then we do some giving base paint into the alley and doing marking. We invite the children to choose what kind of games or what kind of drawings that you want to be here, and should I put it here or I should like move it several meters from here, what kind of things that you really want. When if you see several people or men here, they are locals, and some of them are volunteers that we invited or joined in our program. And then after the improvement, now on people can really, or even like children can play this alley every day, but in a specific time. So every day, every 4 up to 6 p.m., this alley or street is closed. So the motorcycle cannot pass this kind of alley, but this alley transformed into the public spaces because of here in District 01, Sunterjaya, we have a problem to define where we should build the open spaces when people can gather and do socialization. But we are having no other option. There is no more land to be built into the open spaces. So that's why we transform the alley, a place that can be transformed into the public spaces. And there are several alleys here within this district transformed into traffic and parking management alley. So if you see in this picture, so here's the condition before we do some things in this alley. This alley has a big problem with the speed limitation. So the locals always mentioning that all motorcyclists who will pass this kind of alley, they will speed up. It could be more than 30 kilometers per hour. So that's why this kind of alley is, locals here are agreed to create this kind of intervention. So they mark it and they make it as a chicane, and they make it as like a zigzag pattern. So the road is visually not straight, even actually the street is straight, but by doing some markings, this kind of motorcyclists can be slow down a little bit when they pass. And when they put colors, they also have specific codes for the colors. So they all agree with three colors. So all locals who lives in this alley, they agree with three colors. When they put this area with the yellow color, so it will be the parking only area. So the motorcycle can only park there. But when you go inside of this alley, you can find several colors such as green. So when you find the green area is committed to be greeneries area. So every single person who has the beautiful plants and also beautiful flowers, they can put it there. And if you see there is another color or room or area colored by blue, so it means the social room or social area. So the social area means that when you put tea here or there, you can really drink the tea everything without any thinking who will protest to you to drink this kind of tea, because of every single thing that is placed in the social area, it can be consumed by everyone. So in this district also, we have some plans with the and recommendations with the locals, but sometimes some of them already implemented or improved, as you see in the previous slides. But there is something that can be improved in this year, maybe around June or July this year. So PT Transjakarta or Transjakarta, the BRT system here in Jakarta, already committed to provide the new route and also new bus station in this district, because of, as mentioned before, there are big problems here when people really rely to the motorcycles since they do not have adequate access to the public transport. So that's why within the improvement or recommendations that are those are discussed with the people, we really put these kind of things as one of the recommendation. And also talking about the safe crossings, it can be improved in this year also. And we also have some recommendations with the locals talking about the bike sharing in kampung. We call it sepeda untuk kampung, sepeda refer to bike, kampung means yani bahat. We really want to make the locals really familiar with the system of bike sharing, which is it has been settled in the kampung that they are using bike as their dailies, and then they're already familiar with this kind of bike, but they need to understanding about the system, and they really want to do this kind of improvement. But till now, we're still looking for the partnership to make it happen in the kampung, because they really want to collect all the bikes that they had and then put into several locations. It could be 6 up to 10 locations, and then they can really learn how to use it, how to manage it, and how to create the system of bike sharing, but in a local sense, of course. And then we also waiting for the improvements already committed by the government, talking about the redesigning the main street. So actually in the main street, we have several designs recommendations related with we have like 8.7 meters road or street, but unfortunately you can find anything there, such as the street vendors, cars, people who walks, and also you can find the motorcycles, trucks there within the 5.1 meters, and there's no space to walk. And as a propose, we just use this kind of color code. So if you see the below picture, you can see that we try to create or state the room or the area of the street. So when even you can use this kind of 5.1 meters, but actually when it's very low traffic, you only can use 3.5 meter for the vehicles. So you can really give 0.75 meters for the bikes, and also around 1.85 meters or maybe around 2 up to 2.5 meters for the pedestrians. And actually, we already waiting for the CSR, sorry. So there is a company named Philips. They already want to join this kind of program to help people have a safe and nice workable environment when it comes to the night by providing new lights there. So if you see in the right uh, down of the screen, you can see this is the plan that has been made by the Philips to put the additional lights in the kampungs. But in the beginning of January 2019, we have a very nice visit with our governor of Jakarta. So Mr. Anies Baswedan visited this district, this kampung, and then he just mentioning about how about replicate this kind of methods, how we create more nice environments and kampungs all around Jakarta. So now on, we are in the progress of scaling up the pilot project of Kampung Kota Bersama. So if you can see or relate, our story started with 2018. We only have one district in North Jakarta or one location in North Jakarta. The actors are ITDP Indonesia, and we're also doing some collaboration with the locals. And we also work with the UN Women. We also go with the Environment Agency of Jakarta. But this year, we have around 144 locations or districts that can be assisted or even improved and join this program or Kampung Kota Bersama program. And this kind of locations, we also invite new actors such as the governor, because the governor already adopt this kind of method, and by his instructions, it can be happen. And also we invite the city mayors, all city mayors in Jakarta, to committed and being a coordinator of the program. And for now on, as you see, we have 3 city mayors are already committed with the program, which is the city mayor of the North Jakarta, Central Jakarta, and South Jakarta. And we also work with all agencies and sub-agencies in all over Jakarta, especially within these 3 cities. And also we all invite the collaborations with the communities and the academia, with some lecturers and even students from some university. But it's still far away from our goal. So actually, one location is pretty perfect for us as an ITDP Indonesia team to work with. But this year, because of the area is getting bigger and bigger, so we invite more collaborators to work with, because of, yeah, we believe that more hands will help us better to manage and also inspire more locations. But even I mentioned that 144 location is already big. Our goal when we want to create all of the districts or kampungs in Jakarta, we should aim more than 2,700 kampungs all over Jakarta that can be applied or even used this kind of methods, and also principles or even this kind of spirit to create basically their access being friendly for the pedestrian and even bike. And for this kind of goal, ambitious goal, we really need to adding more actors in it. And we just really want to not only being a main actor, so we really want to share this kind of sense of belongings to all actors which has been involved within the program. So they will not say that this is a program created by the ITDP. It could be a program initiated by ITDP, but they will have this kind of willing ownership feeling to the program. And this kind of steps and the outputs that we are trying to create when we are talking about the Kampung Kota Bersama. So actually we have 7 steps with more than 7 outputs going with every step. And here you are, as you can really understand, the thing is not the final products of our process. We also mentioning that this kind of program really reliable with the spirit and the activities of the locals. So it's really talking about the process when we do and we try to implement the methods, and when we try to convince the people the importance of having the walkable neighborhood. And we try to not tell them about this kind of TOD standard principles. We have 8 principles to be implemented in the neighborhood now, but we're just saying if you have a women there and children there who always do some activities by walking, so you should support this kind of environment to be very, very nice for the pedestrians or even the cyclists, because of most of the children within the kampung, they will use bike to go everywhere. And then by doing this kind of thing, the planning process and also the implementation process will give some stress here, because of we try to not only collaborate, but we also try to being locals. So we need to understand, we need to collect data. So maybe we can come and visit the kampung once or twice a week. So we try to communicate with them. We try to being a good listener, and we try to create the map of neighborhood. We create the map of the issues. We understanding about the positioning in the kampung. So who will be who will have the great authority within the kampung. It could be the head of the district, but sometimes it's not. It could be the wife of the head of the district has the powerful authority in the area. So we try to create this kind of human maps and also the authority things, the power, and we try to discuss with the people talking about the concept, the brandings, and the policies that can be made to support this kind of concept of branding. And then we try to do some list of sources, because we really want to create this kind of neighborhood can appreciate something that they have, even a really, really small thing. So we just like say, if you have something, let's say you have knife, you have scissors, you have painters, you have a bottle of paint, don't forget to mention it. So you will have some senses of belonging of something that you've made in this kampung. And we try to create the documentation together with the locals, or the locals understanding about what kind of the process that we made, what kind of story that we create, and what will be the final product of this kind of thing. And the applications is something that we want to create every single things happen in all over Jakarta, or maybe not only in Jakarta, it could be implemented or even replicated in other cities outside of Jakarta. And we have some methods that can be used to collect the data. So we are having discussions is used to collect the data from the women, men, and also teenagers. This kind of list of questions. So this is the basic templates of the questions. If you see, we have some points on blue and some points on yellow. So blue one, when we try to speak or discuss something with the district people, but in the yellow one, we will ask this kind of questions to the sub-district people. And we also have interview methods. We use it to understanding the needs of the elderly, disabilities, and also caregivers. And it's kind of basic templates of the questions. And here, oh, if we want to understanding about the needs of the children, we have some methods talking about draw and put the stickers. So if you see here, we have some questions on blue, green, and one question in yellow. So the blue one goes for someone who cannot writing down something, so they can really put the stickers who will, it will be representations of their answer. So they can put the car stickers, bus stickers, walking stickers, and other stickers that will be their answer into the papers. And the green questions will ask the elder children who can write to give their opinions about the neighborhood. And then the yellow one, we combine all the children to draw something about the neighborhood, what they want to be implemented, to be seen in the neighborhood. And we also have travel diary methods when we try to collect data. We ask minimum 10 household per sub-district. We will ask the role of the women, a group of women, to deploy this kind of forms, travel diaries, and they can fill it out from 1 week up to 2 weeks. So we can understanding about their mode preparation, their mode preference, and also about the locations as the destination locations, and about how many time that they need to travel or to mobile. And here you are. We are going to the last segment, actually talking about the potential collaborations. As I mentioned before, here in this year, we already, it's not overwhelmed, but we are very excited to welcoming this kind of 144 locations, new locations that we should visit it maybe once or twice a week. But we really understanding that the power of creating more sustainable or livable neighborhood, which is pedestrian and bike friendly neighborhood, we need more people to collaborate. So here there are three things that we can do or collaborate more when we are talking about the potential collaborations. So actually here in this program, we have a new improvement or maybe new strategy to create this kind of, to invite more and fresh and great creative persons, people to join us by being a volunteer. So actually we have a mini program called Relawan Kampung. So Relawan means volunteer. So when you want to join us, you can be like a local. So let's be a locals when you try to be volunteer. So the volunteers actually will be deployed into several teams, into several locations. And then as a volunteer, you will act as a technical assistant for the locals. You can be a facilitator, moderator within the discussions, collect the data, and also being an actor to transform the knowledge. So you will also initiate the methods of doing mapping. So you will give some transfer knowledge to the locals how to create maps. And you also have a chance to visit Kampung once or twice per week. And this kind of environment we try to build by doing registration things. And every single person who really interested to being a volunteer, they can really do registration in www.indorelawan.org. This is one platform that we work with for now, or even send me an email. So here is my email address, you can see. But second one, if you do not have any time to go or visit, you don't based in Jakarta or Indonesia, but you really want to do something, and you can go maybe once or only one visit, you can do something with the locals. You maybe love this idea. So actually we tried to develop this kind of scheme. We call it adopt the streets, or in Bahasa we call it adopsi gang. How we invite people to make it happen, to create every single dreams by the locals to be happened in the kampung. So sometimes when you are being a donor, it's not pretty fun. You only give the money and then let them to build something. But when you want to adopt the street here, you can donate and join the process of making of the sustainable and thematic alleys or even streets, and also put the names for the respect in many creative ways. Sometimes you can also inspire some design and understand about the needs of the people, specific alleys. And if you really want to understand because of this is external webinar may be limited by several time, a specific time, you can also communicate with me by sending me an email to understanding about what kind of things that maybe we can develop by adopt the streets. And the last one, actually, we try to invite more collaborators. And so let's collaborate and make friends by doing scaling up the projects. So we're really open to collaborate with anyone, and we do not have any set type of collaborations outside of the Relawan Kampung and also Adopsi Gang. But we're really open for discussions about further activities that can be set or made by us, so we can really go and do it together. So just in case you really want to have a chit chat with us talking about the scaling up the projects and how we try to create the new strategies for the next year, or even in other cities, in other locations in Indonesia or even other countries, you can really contact me or even Fani. So Fani is one of our senior manager communication and partnership here in ITDP Indonesia. You can really send us emails there. So maybe Christina, here you are, the last presentation. We try to invite you all to not only because of the purpose of this webinar, actually, we really want to share about something we are doing right now, but we also open the room or area to talking about the possible potential collaborations that can be made by us. So further blog posts, maybe you can find it in our website, or even, yeah, but sometimes already set in Bahasa. But if you need some English version, you can really contact me or even Vani once again to understanding more about this kind of program. So maybe Christina hear from me. So if you have any questions, let me know it. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thank you so much, Angie. And for sure, I will share the blog post. And we also have one from the global office that we wrote in English. So I can share that again
Yeah.
with folks after the webinar. So for now, we can dive right into the Q&A. We have a little over 10 minutes. So let me just also share my screen. Sorry, just give me one moment. Here we go. So we have a question here from Alejandro, wondering if this project is a part of a community initiative or government. I think this question was entered prior to when you had showed your slides of the timeline of the project. So Alejandro, if it wasn't answered, you can feel free to type it in again, and then I can ask her to go back to the slide. But for now, we will skip that question. The next question here is from Ivona. She says, these are excellent examples of improvements. Do you think there is a danger of these areas gentrifying due to the beautification and accessibility projects? Also, do you have suggestions and ways to prevent the property prices from escalating?
Okay, so I would like to answer it. So Iwana, here's a good thing you asked me about the gentrification. So actually, when we are doing this kind of program, we just want to step up, just like going one step ahead before the government thinking about the gentrification. So actually, here in Jakarta, as you know, we have a lot of TOD discussions. But this kind of TOD discussion sometimes, or maybe give very different definitions of what the TOD is, that maybe we know as a global TOD is. So as a strategy, when we want to give some new introduction or refresh the idea of the TOD, we do something from the neighborhood. So it's typically different when you go maybe in other city, in other country. When you are talking about the TOD, you go in the city center near with the mass public transit, and you do something with this kind of principles that we already had and provided by the TOD standard. But here is in Indonesia, or specifically in Jakarta, we do this kind of neighborhood improvement because we want to prevent the gentrification, because we really worry about this kind of mislead definition of the TOD can be distract or destroy the existing neighborhood or kampung kota around the public transit. So when we do something in the neighborhood, we also increase the sense of the belonging of the neighborhood with the locals. We also do something to increase the capacity to understanding how to build, what kind of density is, what kind of compact is, how we can do shifting and other things, and how importance of having walkable environment, and even how dangerous the parking is. So they can really speak up about their neighborhood. So once there are more modern built or modern movement that may be made by the government, they can really show them, they really can show the government that this is something that we already created, initiated by us, and we do something with it by our using our money, and we do it with our creativities. We also collaborate with you to create this kind of environment. So this kind of thing really one step that we tried as our strategy to prevent the gentrification before we have the TOD area set in the city. We can see this kind of neighborhood already implement 8 principles are mentioned by the TOD standard. So maybe that's my question, my answer, sorry.
Great, thank you, Angi. And I'm going to go back to the second question from Adam, but just so we can continue this conversation of government collaboration. From this project, we have a question here. How did you attract the governor's attention? And was this the intent, or now that it is happening, how are you working with them to scale up these projects in other kampangs?
Okay, so when we are talking about the attraction, how we invite the government maybe. So actually when we are trying to invite the government to collaborate with the locals, with the NGOs, with the organizations and other communities, we just give them some samples that are set by people. So that's why we do the Kampung Festival right after we do small improvements in the neighborhood. So we do not invite the governments before or even within the planning process, because sometimes the people will rely to the government, and government will think that, oh, they only need us. They only do something in the plannings for something that need us to be implemented. But here, when we do Kampung Festival as one of way we appreciate the things that are already done by the people, we also invite not only government, but also all collaborators. So government will see by themselves that there is something great happen by this kind of community, by the locals. And they also see that, oh, here is my responsibility because of this kind of people already do something for the neighborhood. And there are more locals or even more communities that really want to do something for them also. So it's great opportunity maybe to put infrastructure here because of it's already set. And talking about the law here, why in this program, if you see several steps that I mentioned before, we mentioned about meetings with the city mayor and asking about their commitment as a coordinator. So once the city mayor already commit with the program, they really commit also with the budgeting. So budgeting. So when we asking something about the infrastructure, it is really something big that we achieve because of city mayor can push the policy, the agencies related to this kind of improvement that we need as the locals to, yeah, just to complete what kind of people needs in the neighborhood. So maybe this kind of attraction comes because of we already have the pilot, but we also invite this kind of city mayors and invite more participants to go visit the kampungs or pilots and also see something happens in their kampungs or the other kampungs. So maybe that's it.
Great, thank you, Anki. I'm gonna pop back up to the first question before. This is from Adam. Can the planning output be adopted into an existing spatial planning regulations in Jakarta? Would it be challenging since many kampung areas are considered illegal within the spatial planning regulations?
So actually here in Jakarta, yeah, we have several illegal, maybe it's not an illegal, I don't know how to mention it, but yeah, they do not have a legal status as the land or houses that they had within the city center. But here you go, when we are trying to work with the people, we choose the location, we work with the location who has settled, who has already has their legal land, legal house, and then we do some improvement with them. But we do not want to neglect or even dismiss this kind of issues, but we will do it later. So it's part of strategy actually. When we try to improve one of legal area and it is invite their power, themselves to prove something, to build something in their neighborhood. And then we see that there are several areas outside of our pilot projects really have a big willingness to adopt or even replicate this kind of method. But as issues here, we also invite more of agencies to pay attention of this kind of issues. So maybe when we see there are very big number of people really want to do something for their neighborhood by themselves, how we create kind of platform, how we try to set it, how we conduct this kind of environment to be happen. So here is the thing that we try to involve the locals, bridging the locals and also the government to have a discussions. But maybe it's not in this kind of very first steps that we've done. So in the very, very first steps that we've done, we just work with the legal settlements, unfortunately. But we aim that in maybe next 2 years, we can really go work with this kind of land settlements issues, because we really don't want to neglect them also and left them behind. But we need time to set this kind of trust from the government to really understanding about this kind of process and methods. And we also try to increase this kind of spirits and also attentions from the locals so they can really speak up and create these issues bigger. Because of, once again, for now on, it's not pretty hype. It's pretty hype for the governor and also city mayors, but maybe not every locals in Jakarta already hear the name of the program, but we really want to make them familiar with the program, not only the name of the program, but the spirit, the methods, and also how they can really being sufficient by themselves, but we can really give some assistance for them. But well, yeah, when we are talking about the legalization of the land, it is the next step that we want to discuss with the government, but it's not this year. We hope that it can be happen maybe next or next 2 years.
Great, thank you, Angie. And we have about 2 minutes, so I'm going to try and squeeze in these last two questions.
Yeah.
If you could just reiterate the demographics of kampungs in general, or perhaps you could just give the one of this first pilot that you worked on, and also comment on if people move up in class, whether that's economic or social, in kampungs, do they tend to leave? And then we have a second question here. If during these mapping exercises for the kampungs, did you include specific routes looking at destinations and services that are important to the locals? So for example, routes to childcare or routes to schools or religious centers.
So actually talking relate to the questions addressed by Rahman. So actually here in this neighborhood, in our pilot area, it is all of them are not low income people. But some of them, yeah, they are low income people, but some of them are really middle up economic people. But within this society, this kind of spirit, how they understand about the importance of the role of women group and also children is something that we try to socialize more within the neighborhood, because of maybe the economic thing is not something harsh or even like unfamiliar things happen as a dialogue in the kampung. But when we are trying about women or even children, it is something unfamiliar for them. So we try to convince several issues based on the issues of this kind of gender groups or even the age group, like the children. But here in the city center, when we say Kampung Kota, they always associated by the low income. So most of people really understand Kampung Kota is an area, a residential area, which is populated by the low income groups, but they are not actually. But they also have some dependency on cars or even private vehicles such as motorcycles, since they do not have any adequate access to the public transit. So sometimes, well, yeah, they do not really rich, but they are not really poor. But they really want to choose this area because of they think they are really close with the activity center, maybe with the job opportunities, education facilities, health facilities, and other opportunities that might be in the city center. So they do not have any willingness to work out from the city center or the area or live in other area for this kind of housing things. And towards the second question, yes, we do mapping. So in the preliminary survey, so before we do the mappings and do the discussions with also the people, and during the planning process, we do the mapping. And we're also asking the women group to put the stickers on our maps to indicate where is the mosque, where is the church, where is the schools, where is the hospitals, where is the public spaces, where is the criminal or potential alley that can be a criminal location, where is alley without any lamps, lightings, and other things such as where is the market, where you have to buy the food, where you can buy the clothes and other things. So we do all the exercises. We ask the women group and also elderly specifically to doing participatory mappings on it. And we also doing survey and asking our volunteers to work with the Locus Map, the free applications actually, to map all the social activities places. So it can be also the very famous person house and other things, so we can really understand where people will gather or do socialization, and where the child will go play, which alley will not be passed by the children, also women, and something like that. Yeah, we do this kind of things because of, once again, we have something that we want to emphasize. This is the direct role of the women and also children. And most of our work in Kampung will also mention the crisis of the social or public space. But we are limited in the land, so that's why we try to also inventory the alleys that can be transformed into the public spaces. And we also need to understanding about the networks, where are the destinations and where are the services are located. And we are trying to understanding about how they mobile and to access this kind of services. So that's it.
Great. Thank you so much, Angie. We're a little over time, so we will go ahead and wrap up. But thank you again for an amazing presentation. And for us, it was really incredible to learn about the first pilot and how it's being scaled up in the year to come. And for all of our attendees today, thank you very much for joining the webinar. We really appreciate your interest and support in these projects. As mentioned in the beginning, we will share the recording and PowerPoint with you via email, and we'll also provide a link on our ITDP website, which will also host all the materials and a link to our blog posts. So thank you all again for joining, and Angi, congratulations on a great project.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care.